Hey, welcome to another episode of the GenX guys. You got JD and Len here,
Hey,
and I just realized I literally didn't play our opening. So for those who are used to the opening,
used
I
to it,
disappointed.
yeah.
I did. I disappointed. Dude, we've gotten pretty good, consistent listening. So
Well,
you
that's
know,
why they're listening for us for fucking the opening. That's what it
we're
is.
now
Now they're
averaging
disappointed.
over
Now they're gonna fucking not gonna listen.
10 listeners for per episode.
Spit it out.
Jesus,
Yeah,
I know.
there you go.
It's Saturday morning. We're back
It is.
on our Saturday
We're back
move,
Saturday
so
morning.
it's a little different.
A little different mood. We're a little bit more mellow, a little more relaxed,
Yeah,
unwound
but here we
and
go.
ready for the week.
Just throw it in a little late. Why not? Gonna keep talking over it too.
Keep talking about it, yeah.
All right, that's it. So anyway, there we go.
So how's your week been?
It's been good.
Good.
It's been a good week. It's been good in the sense like I'm healthy. Relatively.
healthy.
I mean, let's be
Your
honest.
body's still falling apart. Just slowly
Yeah.
degrading.
I'm old as shit.
Actually, not really slowly. It's fucking accelerating. At a
I
bad
say I'm
pace.
old as shit. I'm not old as shit. But point being, like, I feel super old some days, and other days I'm better. Like, I still try and play soccer once a week, so that's good. That keeps going. My gym time has been horrendous. Going to the gym. I mean, I go
Amazing.
primarily because my work hours are now pretty much
That's right. Yeah.
just
Forgot about
around 7 a.m., sometimes earlier,
Right.
but almost always 7 a.m. and on. And so I end around anywhere between 3 and 4-ish. And I
And
want to go to
for
the gym.
context, JD is one of those early morning gym goers. He's one of the guys who legitimately goes at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And so having to be at work at 7 just kind of really disrupts
Threw
him.
it off. Yeah,
threw it off.
which I expected, which was fine. And it just comes down to me, can I motivate myself to get up at 5 a.m., basically?
No. Yeah, that's a little bit too
That's
much.
exactly right, because it'll be 5:20. I'll actually wake up at 5:20. Not force myself. I just legitimately wake up at 5:20, and I start to think about. I start calculating time, gym time, and everything, and when I need to be back. Plus, I like to walk my dog every morning before I start work.
Right.
And
I question for you then, because for me, especially doing weight training, mainly weight training and heavy, I need to eat beforehand. Like if I go in, people talk about fasted exercising, and I see fasted exercising for cardio as being something that you can do, but for weight training, like it's just a drop. And I'm trying to go in for performance. I'm trying to lift heavy, so trying to go in without any type of even just basic carbs. I know you could eat some things, but just usually like the best workout is like a good combination of protein and carbs. A little bit more carbs still, but still it needs at least that 45 minutes to start really fully digesting, because I need it in me, not just to help me get through my workout.
yeah,
So just curious, how do you usually approach it?
dude, I do not eat before I go to the gym. Now, sometimes I'll have a banana beforehand just to give me something.
Wow.
I'll actually, I do have most times. I wouldn't say every single time, but I'd say at least 80% or more. I do have energy, not an energy drink, but the powder that to help give me some energy
Pre-workout.
boost. So I take that because it takes 20 minutes before ish. I take that, so that's at least gives me some of the energy burst I need. But I don't eat anything
Okay.
food wise going into it. Never have actually. Even when I worked out later in the evening, 10 years back when I was always going at like 5 after work, 5 or 6, I'd still go work out and then have the
Relatively.
meal after, right? So,
Right.
to help
I
burn
think
from
it
there.
usually depends upon what your approach is. Like I said, if I go for the heavy, high intensity type workout, which means that, like I said, I think you could do it fine. I've done fasted cardio, which you can do, and I don't think it affects performance. It's going to affect performance no matter what. If you don't have that sort of
Yeah, if you don't have an energy burst or like carbs, right?
need
Having some
something. You need
carbs
something,
before,
yeah.
carbs before cardio helps at least from an energy standpoint too, to
Right.
generate some energy. And yeah, to your point, like for me, even after I did the morning workouts, I wouldn't always eat right away, which was bad.
Wow.
Now I'd have a protein shake or something like that,
That's fine.
which just to get it in there. But like the core concept of when I was really working out hard and dropping a lot of weight and got myself probably in my best shape in decades, really, that's where I was doing the evening workout, which was at 4 or 5. So that was fine. I knew the routine. And the gym, I knew the structure of when people would get busy and not, and so I knew how I want to approach it going in for each one.
4 o'clock is perfect.
Yeah, and I'd work out. I'd go and eat breakfast. Obviously, during the day, I'd have, and by breakfast meaning something light, nothing heavy. Like it could be
You've never
like
been a
some
big
eggs,
breakfast person,
eggs white. Not anymore. No. I mean, when I was a kid, yeah, I'd give me those freaking Cocoa Puffs and all that other good stuff.
not a
Peanut
big
butter
breakfast food.
crunch,
Cocoa. Yeah, wait. I
peanut butter
love
crunch,
this.
peanut butter
Fruity
crunch was
Pebbles
fantastic.
and Captain Crunch. Oh, Captain Crunch is awesome though, especially with the crunch berries. Except of course, it would
Never liked those.
destroy.
Never,
You never like this?
never had the Crunch Berries. I only had Captain
love
Crunch
Crunch
peanut
Berries.
butter. That was it. That was all I ever had.
That was like I would be okay with it, but no, the crunch berries is my favorite. Except of course, and everybody knows this who our age, fucking destroys your mouth.
Oh yeah,
But you still had to eat it like right away because you didn't want it to get soggy, even though it was
correct.
just killing you. You still fucking had to eat it now.
I wanted it
wanted
hard as rock
you
to
needed
chew
the
through
crunch.
it, so you could taste it. To your point.
Well, actually, and I think I already know your answer: Fruity Pebbles or Cocoa Pebbles. Really quick.
Probably Cocoa Pebbles.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. I'm Fruity Pebbles.
I mean, I like them both.
I still eat it.
Yeah, the Cocoa Pebbles to me was like also once I'm done, I'm drinking that milk because it's chocolate milk now.
Yeah, and I wasn't a big fan of that. Even now, it's Fruity Pebbles is my go-to. I need a quick snack. I need a quick 200-300 calorie whatever. Like I'll do it as a pre-workout.
Oh, there you go.
Because you get like I'll use the Fear Life milk that has the higher protein, so I'll do that.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Okay.
So I get it. It gives you. It's funny. And we're really going off topic, and my fault for this, but like, it's always funny when you see a younger generation in Gen Z or whatever discover something. Like they discovered that if you had Rice Krispie treats before a workout, it gave you a good pump, right?
Sure.
Like it became this big pre-workout thing. Oh, Rice Krispie treats are the perfect pre-workout, and it's like it's carbs.
Yeah,
it's not Rice Krispies. There's nothing magical about it. It's people vilify carbs, but for a workout, they work. So it's just funny that they do that. Where cereal was always like one of my go-to pre-workouts. Because you get, like I said, you get that carb and protein mix. But it's just
right.
funny. But yeah, but Fruity Pebbles is still my go-to. I still love it.
There you go. Well,
Anyway,
it's funny you bring up about the workouts in general, but when you fall, you look at like I don't know Instagram, I'm sure TikTok and others. People are always posting. Here's how you need to work out if you're going to. I've seen probably 500 plus different variations of how these people say this is the way to work out. I'm like, that's fantastic. Like, if someone's out there legitimately first trying to get started, they'd be confused out of their mind. They have no clue what to do. And it's very simple. Yeah.
Well, also, for people's background, I was a personal trainer for 10 years, studied kinesiology, and had like 3 certifications. So, and I still follow a ton. But it's also funny because you'll see these trends where you'll get one of the big influencers, and some of the ones that I follow, like TNF and some of these other ones that are really good in terms of the information they provide and how they provide it. But you'll see this waterfall effect. To your point, one of these big influencers will say something, and then all of a sudden everybody parrots it like it's their idea.
Right.
You always see it, but you always see this trend. Like there was a lot of the trend was either this movement or these type of straps or whatever the case may be. It goes to the whole gambit of things. But it's just funny because you'll see like the trend of the waterfall effect. Like I said, this one big influencer will say something, everybody says it like they're inventing it.
Right.
And that's but like you said, and then what you see then is also the telephone effect. And I'm kind of to your point is that as all these influencers are saying it, they don't understand the context. And that's one of the things that always has frustrated me about going to the gym and talking to people and actually for a decent amount understanding the science behind it is they don't understand the context of which it was said in. They don't understand the studies. They don't understand physiology and so on. And so they start parodying it, but then they start bastardizing it. You know what I mean? Like changing it.
I think
like
people
making
get it, yeah.
Like changing it to the point where you're like, wait, why? And that was always the thing that I would always say with it is that I was always curious as to the why. The science behind it always fascinated me.
Well, yeah, and to be honest with you, there's also the other thing that people have to deal with is AI generation is a real thing now.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of the content is AI generated. I mean, you'll see things about, I've seen plenty of things from different types of, like, if your age is this, you should do this. Or I did the Tai Chi workout and it gave me this at the age of 50 and over. And all this is like fake stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like, you can look it up. If you put the due diligence into it and just don't accept what you see as fact, you'll find out that 90% of it is just made up shit that someone generated because they want viewership, they want clicks.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's nothing new. I mean, there's different
Why would you
techniques
listen
over
to
time.
somebody random? It's like if you go to your doctor, you tend to think that if a doctor is hired by a hospital, like I go through Kaiser, right?
Right.
And so you like to think, or you have to put some trust into that this doctor was vetted. They're educated. You see that they have that. They're part of this large company. And again, they're not perfect. I'm not saying that just blind faith, but
Mm-hmm.
you go to your doctor with some semblance of, I'm going to have some trust in this doctor, what he says. If he says something to me, I'm going to believe him. I'm not saying, blindly, of course, which some people will take as, oh no, you can't believe anything they say, which that's as ridiculous as saying that you're going in blind.
Right.
But you go in there thinking with some semblance of trust with this doctor, especially like if you go to a specialist, like with me with
Mm-hmm.
my eyes, since I have an issue with my corneas. Every year I go see an optometrist as well as my optometrist. So, when they say stuff about my eyes, they're like, well, these are the risks. We could possibly do this procedure in the future, but these are the risks. And you may look it up to give yourself more context, but you believe them. But what's crazy is, to your point, is you'll have something that's AI generated, meaning that it's some random person. It's no
Mm-hmm.
better than any random person that you or I come on the screen. And people like, oh, well, I heard this and it sounds good, so I'm going to believe it.
Right.
And it's like, even for the influencers that I follow, I don't follow them until I've seen like 40, 50 different videos of them and hear what they say and hear their philosophy and how they actually do it. And most of the time it's, what's their philosophy? How do they research it? Like, they go off of one study, or, just how their overall approach. But people will see, and I think one of the big things is, to your point, not just the AI, but the lies that a lot of these influencers will say, or the half truths, or the not
Right.
giving full context.
Yeah.
And
I
I
mean,
think that's dangerous.
yeah. And that's a fair point. And yeah, there are plenty of people out there who are just, again, AI or not, are just out there to generate views, subscribers, clicks, all that good stuff, because you can make decent money if you get a pretty good following.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the end, what I've always said when I see people all following these things or really interested in what others are doing, look, it doesn't, everybody does something. What you'll realize really is, if you watch all these, they're all doing something different, which means there is no actual easy answer. The easy answer really, or the simpler answer, I guess, is be active and eat right. Right? Don't sit on your ass all day. Don't ever go out and not walk.
100%.
Get out, move around. You got to keep moving. If you don't move, first and foremost, you're not going to do. You're just, your body's going to stop being able to burn, and metabolism's going to slow down. All that good stuff. And then the other thing is eating. Right? Like eating right, and it's not means give up everything you've ever loved, but it
No.
means being smarter about your amount, being smart about how often you eat it. Right? Like if you just have a week of fast food, that's probably not good. But if you do,
It's a lot easier than people wanted to put it out to be. There is no, like you said,
it is, but
there
it
is no
changes.
fun.
Yeah, well, back to the cereal, right? Like you love the cereal. Why? Because the sugar take and taste is just fantastic. And so, I mean, that's the
not
reality.
rocket
A lot of people get, and I'm one of them. Like I love fucking peanut butter cups. I got a real problem for chocolate and sweets. So
No,
that's something I always have to.
it's something you've always had. But I mean,
I have, but I still need to battle. Like I know it's bad, and there'll be times I'll just have it, and I'll be like, I know this is bad, but I still need to work on getting better at controlling sort of my intake and the types of things I'm eating.
moderation. But
What's that?
moderation.
Moderation. Yes, exactly. So,
I mean,
anyway,
there's nothing wrong with having even if you had one Reese's peanut butter cup a day.
I
Now,
can't
not
just do
having two
one.
is the hard part. No, I'm just saying, because you're showing self control by not having both of them. But I'm just saying, even if you had just,
It's already
you had
open,
one
dude.
every single day,
Yeah, just not eat
See,
both.
but see, that's I know.
How
But
about one
see,
package a day? No.
okay, one. But even no, even then, even one package a day is 130 calories. I'm sorry, it does nothing for you. That it does something for you, and I think that's the whole thing. God, we can do a whole episode on when it comes to health and this.
Yeah, we're not going to. We're not going to. But yeah,
because we could go into because people also, I think, always want something to blame. They don't want to. They don't want to look at their own shortcomings. Like you said, yours is a lack of self control when it comes to these things. Like you said, you can't open up a package of Reese's peanut butter cups and only have one. Because, like
correct.
you said, you whatever and dude, you know how I am.
Which, by the way, the more we talk about this, the more I'm going to go to the store after and get one. No, I'm not going to.
Sure, you don't have one in the house?
No, I don't. I don't. I ate them. I ate them already, so I'm good. Yeah, they're already gone. But to your point, you're right. I mean, it's for a lot of people, it's what's the easy answer, and that's why a lot of them look for these things online, right? Like they're trying to find that quick win. I mean, Ozempic's a great example, right? People got so excited about Ozempic and others because it helped them suddenly lose weight. Well,
which isn't a bad thing.
It isn't. It's helpful, but it actually doesn't solve the long-term issue. It just helps reduce your appetite, which is really what helps ideally you cut back on your eating habits, which is really what you want to do anyway. But it draws it down.
In my own fat loss thing, which I lost about 20 pounds in a year, which isn't a lot, but also I wasn't really trying to be aggressive about
right, yeah. Because you're muscle building too.
Yeah. But then again, 20 pounds in a year is probably as much as the average person should expect to do. You could do more. And I know people are oh, no, you could do a pound a week easy. Yes, you can.
Well, in a year, I lost 70. So.
Right. But again, that
was aggressive.
That's aggressive, though. And I don't think people think about that. That how big of a pound a week. And the pound a week is the easy part. The hard part is doing it for 52 weeks.
Yes.
It's sustaining that every week, because it is very easy. You go on a cruise, you go to do something, and all of a sudden you take a week off. Well, what that means is that if your plan was over 52 weeks, every time you have these breaks, you had to add on to that. Now, all of a sudden, you're doing this for 54 weeks. And those little breaks in between, I think we all can say they don't do shit to like reset you. You can have a break for a week, but then you have to get back into it. It's almost harder to get back into it after taking a week off of being on a diet.
Agreed. And it's easy. Like a great example is before I took a cruise recently, the cruise recently back in like June, July, August, like maybe July, somewhere around there. Right. I was able to start getting my weight back under control. I mean, I just reduced my intake, stopped drinking, developed this taste for alcohol for some reason later in life. I don't know why.
And by the way, he never drank younger. Like him drinking a beer.
I mean, I'd have a beer here or there, but really,
you would have it at an event. Like if it was a wedding, it was an anniversary, of course, or something.
The usual,
you would always have a drink. Yeah. But that was it. It had to be a special occasion.
Yeah, I just didn't really care for it, and I still don't care for beer, by the way. So that's why I don't drink it. But obviously, cognac I've developed a taste for, which is really which is really problematic. But no, I mean, if I give that up. Meaning, I don't focus on having, something once a week or whatever it is, but I give it up. And then I controlled my appetites and just kind of continued my workouts religiously, which is what I've always done. Then I dropped my weight back down. I was down to when I started, I was about 232, which isn't bad by any means for mine. It's still overweight from where I want to be because I really want to be at 205. That's the ideal body weight for me, for my height and size. And I got down to about, just before the cruise, probably about to 219, 218. So I dropped 12 pounds probably within 2 months, which was good. Not because I was trying to starve myself, because I just can't do that. But I was better controlled at what I was having. But I was also not eating as much in the morning, right? Like some of these things just started to limit. I would probably not eat till lunchtime. So intermittent fasting. I wasn't trying to do it, but I was kind of doing it by that. And I also tried to set my goals of like not eating anything after 7:00 at night. Like I try to do that.
That's where I can add on easily 500 calories to my day. Is not the eating, it's the snacking at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
Easily I can do 300 to 500 extra calories out of nowhere. I'm like fucking dumbass.
Yep, exactly. So anyway, holidays are coming up. Speaking of
Yeah.
food, so I wanted to talk about this actually. This was something on my list of things to talk about. You know, Thanksgiving's next week because we're recording this
Yeah.
on Saturday.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm curious, let's talk about like Thanksgivings in the past compared to what they are today. They're similar in many ways, but like sports is a big thing. Like, what have you seen as like some of the biggest changes from like the '80s when you had Thanksgiving back in the '80s versus and meaning everything surrounding it, not just specifically going to family and having dinner. I know that, but more specifically, everything surrounding sort of the experience for Thanksgiving compared to like today.
It was way bigger. I mean, I think if you look at the 80s and 90s, even and even probably early 2000s for us, especially because you had even growing up in the 90s where I had limited family. Like you were
Mm-hmm.
probably your family was probably a bigger part of my life than my actual family was for the most part,
Yeah.
mainly because your family was so ongoing. Like you still had your mom, you still had your grandparents, and your aunt, uncle. You always had these things. So even though for in the 80s I had my family, then I had like your family, then my family, of course, in the early 2000s, I think it was big that Thanksgiving was huge. I mean, if you look at that 4 to 5 day period, and this is even before Cyber Monday, so just say that 4 day period, there was always a build up to Thanksgiving. There was the huge build up to Thanksgiving, because a Black Friday was one of them, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it was triggered, I think, by Black Friday because you started seeing all the advertisements. Then you started seeing the Hallmark movies, that stuff for the holiday stuff, right? Because that was the beginning of the holidays. And whether people agree with it or not, we not to get into that, but we are a primarily Christian based country, for the most part. Whether
Mm-hmm.
you're practicing or not, like you and I
And
aren't
Christianity is
practicing.
one of the biggest religions in the world. So,
Right. And especially here in the US. I mean, especially, because it's not just, and I mean, I don't mean just white, because,
although Thanksgiving has nothing to do with religion, well,
but
it's an
it's the start of the
American-born
holiday season.
only specific event.
But the thing, yeah, it is. But what I mean is that it marked the beginning of the holiday season.
Yes, agreed.
Because if and again, it's not just white. Because I mean, living in California, you have everybody from south of the border. Mexican, Latin America, all of them are heavily Christian influenced. So you see that side of things. We also grew up in an area that was highly Filipino, which means, and they're big into Christmas. They're bigger into Christmas than I think anybody in the world. They start Christmas in like August, September. Like literally, like their decorations start going up like well before
You think
Halloween.
so? I never
No, I
felt
know.
that when we lived out there. Never.
Not no. But I'm just saying. I'm just saying Filipinos in general are big into Christmas. Yeah, we really didn't see that influence. But I'm saying, I'm sorry, I meant to say in the Philippines. But
Right,
I'm just
yeah.
saying Filipinos are
Got
heavily
it.
into.
Okay.
But what I mean is Thanksgiving is the beginning of that season. Like it was the kickoff, and so you had that build up of you start seeing stuff. But right when Thanksgiving hit, you would see that weekend 90% of Christmas decorations. I remember you and your dad that weekend. You guys were outside throwing up a million different things on your house. We would, like my family did the tradition of cutting down our Christmas trees.
Yes.
So there was that buildup for the holiday season, but Thanksgiving, but you know, you always go to a family house, or there was always a big meal. Um, and then of course there was, Black Friday, which your wife and your mom would be just out at 5 a.m. with a list, you know, talking back and forth, coordinating with each other. And then, like you said, like the weekend was preparing for Christmas. It was like getting things going. Like you would do the cleanup, but then you would start really getting ready for Christmas. So it was a much bigger deal. And I think with some of the move away from wanting to call it Christmas and making it, and then there's the connotations that people had about Thanksgiving. I think there's been I think we're kind of, I think there's kind of slowing down, but there seemed to be like this pull away from it. And then we both work in e-commerce. There is no more Black Friday. I
I
mean,
mean,
there is.
there's Black Friday
It's
weekend, basically. Black Friday event. Now, Black Friday itself will be a slightly better deal online, to your point. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, the whole
but it's nowhere
concept.
close.
No, it's not
Yeah,
like it used to be, to your point. I mean, and we talked about this on a previous episode, like the whole
yeah,
that Friday morning for Black Friday starting as early as
it's
2
over.
a.m., sometimes at
Nobody does it anymore.
midnight, actually. They would be at stores. I'm sure plenty of you have seen that reports back in the day where fights would break out, grabbing a TV, or people just ran, just destroying a store, whatever it is. But yeah, I agree with you. It's definitely changed over time. What's interesting to me also is, back to your point with Thanksgiving, obviously back in the 80s, 90s, and so forth, it was definitely more family oriented. Of course, we were younger and more of the family was around. But I definitely was, Thanksgiving was going to my grandmother's, with the big family, always having that, which was nice.
It's huge. I always remember,
yeah. It was actually smaller than the Christmas gathering, though. So
true.
It was still pretty big, but it was definitely smaller. So you kind of get used to that, the whole family experience, always being there together on Thanksgiving. But the thing that I've noticed more and more over the years, and you see this all the time, is that the holidays are starting to become a blur, sort of what you're mentioning, right? Like Thanksgiving's becoming more of a blur. Sure, it's a stop on the way to Christmas, basically. But I think I've noticed more and more people are putting up Christmas decorations at the beginning of November. Like, to your point, like I wouldn't put up stuff till Thanksgiving weekend. Like, to me, that was the earliest I'd want to then kick off the Christmas season. And that's still true. I generally stick to that, although sometimes I'll do the weekend before, start putting up the stuff maybe inside or outside. But the core, like the tree, I won't go get a tree till Thanksgiving weekend usually, or after.
Right.
I just, no rush to get one earlier because it'll die. First off, I don't need a tree drying up too quickly.
Right.
But yeah, it's been interesting just to see how it's progressed to where it's no longer really. Yeah, you had the Macy's Day Parade, right? Let's not forget about that. Always watching that in the morning. That's no longer a big thing anymore. You had football, and football consisted of only 2 games, and that was it. And there was no basketball, nothing else. It was literally just the football games. You'd get excited, you'd watch them. That's just all part of the ambiance of what Thanksgiving represented, at least in the 80s and 90s. Even the 2000s to some degree. The basketball never really kicked in until probably in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
As it become a bigger stake. But now the NFL does like the Black Friday game, right? So they got the next day after Thanksgiving. And so some of the uniqueness from my perspective was that these only happened at that day, on those days, and that was very limited to what you could get involved with. Whereas today there's just so much, and it all bleeds in. It's like, it's no longer, when Thanksgiving comes and goes, it's like, okay, it happened. To me, it's just, okay, the companies are taking days off, people working who aren't in retail.
Well, actually, that's a trend I'm glad that they reversed. That's one trend that we saw happening pre-pandemic, where stores weren't closing almost on Thanksgiving. They were opening, or they would open at 10 p.m. on Thanksgiving.
Right. Yeah, they started doing earlier and earlier. Sometimes they'd be open at 2 in the afternoon.
Right. They would let them off in the morning. And I think that's one good trend that we've seen reversed, is that the stores aren't doing that anymore, and they're opening up now, because I think that it's a consequence more of, we're not seeing the mad Black Friday rushes, and that there's no reason to have them in store. And it's not because they're being benevolent. Anyway, I can't speak today. Can't speak any day. But anyway, and letting their employees off. I think it's actually a good trend. But do you think some of it is just where we're seeing it more just because of our age? Because
things change when you get older, right? It's just a natural evolution from our perspective. For anybody's perspective, as you age, things you remember as they were. Things come in, things change. I'm sure Thanksgiving back in the 80s was completely different than my parents back in the 50s, right? As far as
would have been, though. How much?
Well, things like TV and whatnot wouldn't have been in existence. You're watching those football games and all that stuff wouldn't have existed. True. Black Friday wasn't I don't think they even ran Black Friday back then.
Yeah, no.
And it really was more of a day for family, right? So, yeah, I think over time, to your point, as we've aged, we see things differently. It is exactly what it is. That's why I say, when we talk about, hey, making decisions and whatnot, or your kids always think they know everything. It's like, well, I thought that too. And then you start to realize as you get older, you didn't know shit. And the reason why is because you just didn't experience enough. And so the same thing here. 100%. We've experienced so many Thanksgivings. We've seen the change over time, the internet come in. now e-commerce, to your point earlier, like that's why it's not so much our age, it's just our longevity. We've been around to see a lot of changes happen more so than it's because we're over 50 and we just have a bitter mentality. I don't think that's it at all, although we're both bitter, but I don't
Yeah,
think that's it at all. It's
that's a
it's
different
just it's just the evolution, I guess. So,
I mean,
but it's just
look at you.
interesting.
I mean, especially for you, Christmas to you was a whirlwind day. Um,
Yes.
I don't think we ever brought this up, but JD's birthday is on Christmas.
I think we
So
brought it up like early episodes, which is a long
maybe
time
early
ago.
episodes. But anyway, but it was always a day where you not only had the Christmas part where you go over your grandmother's and then you had it for your family and then for your kids and all these random things, but like your day was just, you were just exhausted by the end of the day on Christmas because it was just so much to do,
Right.
especially because, especially when you're a parent, but then you're a parent and you're also a sibling and everybody wants to say happy birthday to you. And then you have to go do the Christmas thing. It was just, for you, I think it's just one of those days. It was a lot. And now it's not. I mean, it's things
Yeah.
change, but I wonder how much do you think the thing with family and extended family has changed? I mean, do you think
Oh, a
it's
lot.
your family? But I wonder how you look at it from, especially your family is extremely, and to kind of just expand on it, like birthdays, your house would be packed with people. It
Hmm.
was anybody's birthday, and you had, or even just little events, eighth grade graduation, your house was full of family. And
Right.
so, I mean, when I think of like the family gatherings, when I think of that, it was always your family. And so now that things have changed for you, do you think it? And now, of course, things change with every family. Just like unfortunately with your mother and grandmother passing away, things change.
Hmm.
But I think it's more just, I mean, of course, your family was an extreme, but maybe not an extreme, but at that end. But do you think it's also something that's happening more widespread, like less family type things, people kind of just doing their own things individually versus
Yeah. I mean,
your family?
that's a good question. Like, I mean, over time, obviously, when people pass away, things change, right? Without
Yeah,
my grandmother around, without the house there was no reason to pull all the family members together, which was really the driving factor.
right.
So when she passed away, we all pretty much accepted that was it. Our life that we'd known it for Christmas and Thanksgiving really was basically changing dramatically. Like that concept of getting together with a big family was gone. Could someone have tried to emulate it in some way? Possibly, but the reality was it's when certain people are gone, it changes the outcome of kind of how you all look at it. Like myself, to your point, yes, I'm a Christmas kid and I loved Christmas, and I still do. But do I love it as much as I used to? No. And the reason why is because certain people are no longer in my life, and
Yeah,
so some of that brought me the joy and the excitement behind it.
of course.
So I'm still excited and I still enjoy it, but I don't cherish it as much, and I don't feel it as Christmas as much on Christmas Day. Like to
Yeah.
me, it's almost becoming another day. And which, by the way, you're all welcome. Happy birthday to me. You all get it off anyway. So I hope you all enjoy it, and everybody gets gifts now. But I mean, that aside,
I
joke
know.
aside, but yeah, to your question, is it possible this is just an evolution for even others? I don't know. I think some families still do big family gatherings.
Yeah,
I still think that happens quite a bit, to be honest with you. I think it all comes down to who the matriarch, patriarchs are
I was going to say
and
that.
and the families, right? Because that makes a huge difference. If they're around and they're the driving force that brings the family together, then you'll still have it and it'll be a fun event. And eventually that's
Oh,
going to
yeah.
change for them. But for us, yeah, it's like I'd love to have my kids all here. We'll see. It's like for me, it's more of like it's a hope to have them together, but because we're spread out a little bit more now, um, it
Well,
makes it
then they
more
have their own.
difficult to get
I
those.
mean, I think there's also the thing where, you know, your daughter's getting married, and if she
Yeah,
moves with her husband, and then there's the idea that now I don't say loyalty. It's not really loyalty. That's not the right word, but her attention now has to be divided with two
correct.
families.
Exactly.
For the most part, that always happens. So, there's always that what's going to happen. And then when you have, your both of your sons, are living with their girlfriends, and so there's going to be that split. And now, not only is it just a 50-50 split, but there's also the idea that coordination of time, right?
Right.
I mean, there's that idea that, well, this family does it in the morning, this family does it in the evening. So then where do you fit in? And of course, not that they're not going to try, but it's just one of those things where there's always have to be that compromise. Like I said, it was easy.
Yeah, when they have kids specifically, it gets even more difficult.
Yeah, that really changes it even more.
Because you want to see the grand. And to your point, what you just brought up is exactly what I dealt with my kids at the time. Because I had kids young, and all my grandparents were still around. My wife's grandparents, my grandparents were all around, and so we did have a unique structure, which was a pretty hectic day.
Yeah.
Where at least on Christmas Eve, I spend it with one set of grandparents for a couple hours. We go over at night, and that'd be great. The next day, I'd split my time. I'd go to my grandmother's, then we'd leave probably before noon or earlier, and then head over to my wife's grandparents and mother and all them, and spend hours with them, and then I'd come back to my grandparents again. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, it definitely matters, and over time that'll change. Where getting together is tougher, but also back to mine was a little bit easier, and so maybe there's part of that too. When families are closer together or live more in the proximity of each other, pulling together seems a bit easier.
Yeah.
But when they live in different states or, much further out where it requires, a travel day to get to you, then the chances are every other year you may see them, right? They may not be every year. To your point, they may have to split their time, and that's just the reality of it.
Yeah. I mean, thinking about it, not saying it was just funny, because thinking about it now, it was like, you had your uncle who lived about an hour away, hour and a half away, depending upon traffic. And then you had your aunt who lived, again, about an hour away, depending upon traffic.
Yep.
And that, not saying that they saw that as a big trip, but it was always a part of it. So you think about it, if somebody has an hour and a half, to say, worst case scenario, not worst case, but you know what I mean?
Traffic wasn't that bad back then either. That was the beauty behind
That's
it.
what I'm just saying. You're saying worst case scenario, an hour and a half, leaving at a certain time, you would try to coordinate it. But yeah, when and people were cognizant of the fact that they had to travel, but they're traveling with just an hour and a half. And like you said, if you have to travel 5 hours, let's say, whatever the case may be, but I mean, it's one of those things. If you had to take a plane to see your daughter, then you'd have to try to coordinate it with, your two sons. Like, okay, well, I'll see you guys in the morning, but then I'm going to go fly out to see Tina, or I'm going to fly out to see Tina and I'll see you on Friday, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it does. But there also just seems to be this, I don't know, an overall theme sometimes that there's other ways of connecting. Like, you try to get that push of like what we're doing. We're an hour and a half flight away from each other now, or a 9-hour drive, depending upon how fast you drive.
Dude, it's not 9 hours. It's 7.5, 8 worst case scenario. If you're taking 9 hours, you're not trying, dude. You're just
you're stopping. You're doing.
You're just skipping along, is what you're doing.
You're going to the bathroom. You're not just using a Gatorade.
Yeah, you're doing more than one bathroom stop. Let's put it that way.
True. I don't know. At our age, that's going to be something that we have to deal with.
No way. I still can pull it off in 7.5 to 8 hours.
Yeah, we'll see when your prostate starts to go.
Just starve myself. No water. Boom. Easy.
Yeah, do that.
It's like a NASCAR or Formula One racer.
The only way I do it is motivating, so that you don't fucking yell at me.
Yeah,
that's
pretty much.
The only way I can do
it.
Hey,
whatever works. Whatever works.
But being a little bitch, that without you there to make fun of me, I was like, oh, I'm going to stop and get something to eat. I'm going to stop and get a snack. I love my snacks.
There we go. By the way,
I love anyway.
I know we kind of got a little bit, I wouldn't say down, but more thought, about people not being able to get together for Christmas and whatnot.
Yeah.
So to bring it up a bit more, let me ask you this: back in the 80s, do you remember what was your best Christmas gift you got?
Oh shit.
I mean, figure you're in the 80s, early 80s. I mean, late 80s, obviously, high school and whatnot. But either or is fine, even in the 70s for that matter. Whatever.
You know what I got? No, right when you said
the one you remember the most, I guess, or comes to your mind.
I'm trying to remember the name. I know it's 4-letter, but remember slot car racing?
Slot car racing, yeah.
Yeah, with the cars, and you would go around, you would hold the trigger, and they would go around.
Yeah.
When I got
the racetrack one, yeah.
When it wasn't with the pin. And I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's where you can change lanes.
Oh,
Most of them
yeah.
before had that little
But the
pit,
electric racetrack basically is
electric racetrack, but the one that where you can change lanes. Like when I got the one to change lanes, I was just like, it's fucking real racing now. Because before it was just you fucking hold down the trigger and it went around. But
nice.
then when they got the one with the feelers, but you can actually change lanes. That was
Right, right,
that
right.
was that was it. That was like the one that I was just. I think the one hard part, looking back at it now with Christmas, and not to be a downer on it, but
Here we
I
go. I
think
was trying
most
to
of it
bring us up,
was
people.
no, but I'll look at it from a positive way. But
All right.
it was
Nice.
more the anticipation than actually the day of. It was it was really that anticipation
Oh, yeah, yeah,
trying to
yeah.
get Christmas, that unknown. Because I
Well, how
didn't
often did you sneak out at night to see if the gifts were out there? At like early in the morning on Christmas.
oh, we used to do the thing where I would wake up at like 4 a.m. and peel the tape off a little bit to try to take a sneak peek
Yeah, around
or
3 a.m.,
whatever.
I'd get up, probably wake up my sisters, and we'd go out and just quietly look. And of course, you hear the door open to my parents' room. And they'll
Yeah,
come out, go to sleep. And so you have to go back to bed. So,
especially if your dad said it.
yes, that's why my mom luckily came out.
Yeah, that scared the living shit out of you.
Yeah. But yeah, for my
Yeah,
gift, it's funny. That's cool. Yeah, I forgot about that. I don't think I ever got one of those actually.
yeah,
Um,
I love that.
but for me, the two that actually come to my mind all the time, or at least that pop up in my mind when I try to think back that far, it's one, the Evil Knievel motorcycle jump.
The
Yeah,
revving one.
spin it up,
Oh
spin it
yeah,
up,
yeah,
and
the
let him
revving
take
one.
off and do the jump. That was awesome. Got that.
I
And
don't know
another
how
one's a
we.
Batmobile. The Batmobile.
Okay.
Back in like the early 80s, probably for that. And it's funny, you figure with all the Star Wars stuff and everything else that I always talk about and enjoy and whatnot.
I had the
It,
Star Wars one.
yeah, I
And then
mean, those are great, but it's like those aren't the ones that pop up in my mind first and foremost.
the next one, but before you even said that, I was just thinking I got the X-wing fighter that was for Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
It was the one that looked like it was beat to shit. Like it had the stickers that like it had like the thing from when we went to go visit Yoda. Um, but it had like it was like a messed up version of the X-wing fighter. I remember getting that one, and that was a big
Oh,
one.
nice. Yeah, those were cool. I mean, yeah, the characters I'd get, the Star Wars figures, obviously back in 77 and 78 were fantastic. Or did you? There's actually a picture now I think about it of me holding a Jawa, probably when I'm, in 77, because I got it as a gift from my grandparents. So there's a Polaroid for those who don't know Polaroids of
Oh, yeah.
me where I was holding my little Jawa and super excited about it. Probably the most least talked about character in the universe, but for me it was exciting.
It was also a very different time though, because I was raised by a single mom and we didn't
Mm-hmm.
have money at all. But I only got gifts twice a year. I only got things and anything really twice a year. And luckily for me, birthday's in June, so it was evenly spread 6 months apart.
Yep.
But it was like, that's the only time I ever got gifts was on Christmas and my birthday. There
Isn't that when
wasn't
most people get them?
I don't know. I think there's a big change today, maybe because it's easy to shop for things or whatever, but it just seems, and maybe it's also growing up with, I'm not saying more money, but having my kids be going to private school, even though none of the private schools were like rich money private schools, to be honest. They were all, but I mean, of course, just going to private school means you're at least middle class, right? Whatever that means nowadays, but at least
Generally, yeah. Some would get
making a decent enough
actual
money.
help, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
At least you're able to push yourself to hopefully get,
right,
give the kids an opportunity in a
right.
private school in that case. Yeah.
But none of them were, none of either the elementary or high school were like I said, they weren't, nobody was wealthy. It wasn't,
No.
nobody was going on these major vacations or what. I mean, some probably, but anyway, but it just seemed like when you see some of these kids over the year, they were constantly getting little things, not maybe major things, major, but it just seemed like it's a lot more common today for people to get what they want throughout the year. And so you don't have that, even with my kids, it was like,
Anticipation, right? The
yeah,
excitement behind
it's
it.
like, what do we
Yep.
get them for Christmas? They already got that. They already got that. They already got that. And it just seemed like Christmas was a little bit harder to shop for because it just seemed like it's just not as people talk about, like, the cost of things are going up. things are so much cheaper now than they were. I mean, when you really look at inflation, yeah, some big things, but think how like how VCRs were when they first came out in the 80s. I think for a lot of these things, it's just weird when you really everybody always wants to do, we've said this a million times. Everybody wants to try to do the, oh, you had it so much easier, we had it harder. And where I think that's, there's always truth to that, however you want to spin it. But I do think when it comes to like purchasing little things like a computer, a TV, things that we use on a daily basis, it's substantially cheaper than it was even in the 2000s. I mean, and when you look at inflation and what you're getting,
Well, yeah, but that's only because, I mean, you're not really comparing the same things in my mind, because you're talking about where it was a very rare expense to get, so hence it was more costly.
yeah,
You'd have to take a look at what's rare
also-
today and then say, is it equivalent to what you're talking about? Like,
what would be the equivalent? Because I mean, I think obviously I think the thing that's gotten
there's so
way
many
more
phones nowadays. There's, I mean, obviously the
Right.
big ones like iPhone and others still jack you up, and same with Samsung because of all these features and whatnot. But excluding phones, but like I guess my point is to your point, like VCRs, like those were very unique. They're also giant fucking things, by the way. They were not, the early ones were huge, and to your point, they were costly because they were harder to get. It
They were
wasn't
also
because
brand new.
yeah, and they were also massive in scale, so the way they were building them was probably more costly just from the outer control. I mean, they've shrunk them down so dramatically over time. But that's my thing.
Well,
I guess more and more as it comes out, or as these new things started for us in the 80s, there's such an
What do you think is
abundance.
more expensive. Okay, but to my point, my question then is, when you like one of the things is when you look at our phones, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I'm sure you've seen those memes where they say all of this that we had in the 80s now can be on our phone. Personal computer, laptop, CD player, alarm clock. Like, think how many things your phone has replaced that you had in the 90s, 80s and 90s. So yeah, but what do you think aside from, and even when they show the stats, it's not nearly as expensive as people do when you adjust for inflation. I hate when people say, "Oh, you went to McDonald's and in the 80s it cost $3." For a happy for
Which
a
it did, yeah, at the time.
which it did. But when you look at inflation, it's not as bad as you think it is.
So you're basing it. So then I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It's
Like
more
to your,
expensive today than it was. Besides
well,
houses,
like gas,
housing is
like gas, right? Gas today
right.
costs over $4 on average across the U.S.
Yours. Yeah, it's
Right.
almost $5 here.
Where back in the 80s, I'm paying $1, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the comparison that I'm getting from you is more about, okay, salary structure, what you're getting from salary compared to what the costs were at the time. How does that percentages play out? Like if it's $10 for a Big Mac meal today, where it was like $3 for one back, in the 90s, what was like the average salary? And then what's the average salary today? Like, do they equate together? Like the percentages are still there. Like maybe,
Right.
and I'm not even trying to do math
What's
this
your
early in the
purchasing
morning, to be
power?
honest with
Yeah.
you. But yeah, I get what you're saying. So yes, to that point, I agree. In some instances, you have to take a look at it from society as a whole's change. Are the average salaries higher than they were back in the 80s? If they were for the same job, which there's so many different jobs nowadays, it's harder to do that comparison.
Yeah.
If you take like, not teachers, because teachers get dicked all the time, so I'm not going to get into that one. But like maybe say police, and even that, or fire department. I'm just trying to think of things that stretch over decades.
Well, and that's the whole thing. How many variables are there for stuff like that? And I think that's
Right.
one of the hard things when people bring it up. And we've talked about this a million times, how people
But there are increases that are ridiculous, though. Let me just really state to this for the gas point. The reason why I say that is because, yes, there's more cars, so more demand, blah, blah, blah. But there's also more electrical cars now, so demand for gas is going down to some degree. Not at any real scale, but it's going down.
look
And
at fuel efficiency.
well, and that's the thing, fuel efficiency, all these things take into play. So why is it higher? It's higher. It's purely price gouging. They're just they know they can go
Well, I
up.
can say why for California, because
Well,
every
yeah, all
year,
those fucking rules and guidelines in there.
every 2 years, we always get this blast of campaigns for more taxes on it. Oh, we need either higher bridge tolls or we need higher taxes on this to pay for roads.
Right.
And California actually overall does have good roads. Like, especially when you look at it.
No.
Overall,
Stop.
I'm saying
No.
overall.
How,
Okay, we'll get into
whoa. Hold on. That one I have to stop you on. That is completely bullshit. They have one of the worst structure of roads I've ever seen. And I lived there my whole life, and I don't think they put the money that they're collecting to make these things better
That's my problem. That's
are
my problem.
not being done. Dude, I
My problem
cross
is
state line here in Nevada into California, and suddenly the roads get bumpy as shit.
I'm not
Like,
saying no, but I'm just saying when
yeah.
you look across all 50 states, your comparison is between 2 states, so it's a small sample size. I'm saying
What other states are you going to compare it to? How many have you driven into from California?
I'm saying reports I've seen, so I'm not just doing it with anecdotal.
All right.
You're doing it with anecdotal.
I'm doing it with facts, actual
with 2
visible
states,
proof.
minimal
Visible
anyway.
proof.
The point is that every 2 years, it's always the same thing by our politicians, and we're getting back into something that I complain about all the time, and that is every 2 years, we're going to fix roads. We're going to fix roads. This is going to be, and we're going to do all these projects. 2 years later, they say the same fucking thing. They parrot it, and they always justify adding more taxes on top of the ones they did 6 years ago. So the 2-year cycle that you see here, they've done it with bridge tolls. Bridge tolls, oh, they're going to pay for all these projects.
Those are fantastic, by the way.
Well, and they're always voted on the people who use the bridge tolls the least. Like when you look in the Bay Area, Santa Clara County, San Jose area, the South Bay, who use the bridges the least, are the ones who overwhelmingly voted for it. But since the largest group of our population is there, it passes.
Yep.
You know, but the point is that when you look at all these things with taxes, and I think for that, and then when you look at the regulations and everything like that, it just shows that the government is the one that's making it more expensive, you know, by doing these things. And they don't really help anything because again, they just tack onto it. They just tack on regulations that didn't work. They do band-aid fixes that never actually solve the root cause of it. Well, you look at that bridge really quick. Like, do you remember that bridge that collapsed because the boat hit it?
In
the East Coast. They just did a report this week where
in Baltimore, I believe it was
Baltimore, where the cost of the bridge has doubled. This only happened how many months ago? You know, where they came up with these estimates, but now, and doubling meaning it's going to be like 3 billion instead of 1.5 billion. How do you fuck up and add on another billion? I mean, seriously, how do you make a mistake? Think about it. The funny part is, if you at work made a mistake of that magnitude, would you still be employed? Like if I made a mistake of that magnitude, I'm gone. You know, but with government, it's just, oh, well, I guess somebody's going to pay for it because we have unlimited funds with taxpayers. We can just tax them more to justify that. Oh, well, you need the bridge, right? So we had crossover. Yep. It's no different than high-speed rail in California, which...
Yeah, let me ask you this.
That's a different story.
Because you bring up some interesting points. That's always bothered me related to like bridges, roads, and so forth. I mean, technically, we're advancing, right? We're becoming more efficient. We should be becoming better at what we build. And yet the costs go up. So if you're more, if we're more efficient at pulling together material and whatnot, so that it lowers the development costs and creation costs,
more efficient at draining money.
Why is the cost to get the job done higher?
And so
like I always laugh when they talk about the moon, right? The moon, the plans to go to the moon. It's going to cost billions of dollars. Like, well, how much did it cost back in the 60s? Whether you believe they landed or not, I don't give a shit. Okay, the point is, they landed. But the point is, even the cost just to get there, right? It's much cheaper. And they use material that was probably a lot more flimsy. And they survived. So why is it so much more expensive nowadays? If we're getting more efficient, like AI, for instance, I'm not going to go into AI, but I'm just going to throw that out there. Companies are making changes because AI makes things more efficient. And that's always been the plan for any company, is to reduce costs for everything, right? And pull in their revenue heights. So that's a different discussion altogether. But the point being, you're always looking to become more efficient. Automakers, more efficient. That's why they got rid of people on the line. They started making it robotic and whatnot. Mm-hmm. All this should be capable of bringing down cost, right? But it doesn't.
Better.
Yeah, it doesn't. It always goes higher, and I can't. I mean, I can, but for the sake of this discussion, it just doesn't make sense why, as we continue to evolve in society and technology and how we develop, yet we still seem to have to pay a hell of a lot more than we did for something in the 60s. For the exact same, to your point, that bridge replacement. How much did it cost back in the 60s or 50s or 40s? How long did it take?
Yeah, you're replacing a bridge. There's no need for an environmental impact. You're replacing something that was already there.
Exactly.
But they're going to still do these impact reports and all these things. And
Well, when the Bay
It's
Bridge
just,
got rebuilt, right? When they built that whole new span for the Bay Bridge, they over they
it was
overspent on that as well.
no. One of the worst things was I'm gonna forget the exact number, and I'm just gonna pull a number out of my ass just because I don't.
Sure.
But it was like it originally was just gonna be a bridge. There was gonna be no cantilever, no nothing. But at that time, Jerry Brown was the mayor of Oakland, right? And he
Yes.
fought that he delayed the construction of the bridge because they wanted an aesthetic looking bridge for that side because they felt that San Francisco had the Golden Gate Bridge, of course, but Oakland was just going to get this because for those that don't know, the Bay Bridge in between there's Treasure Island. So
Well, it was always odd that the Bay Bridge was built with two different designs from the island, right? One
I don't,
going
it doesn't make any sense.
now, one going into San Francisco. To his point, he wasn't wrong there technically, but
I'm not saying no.
yeah, I think the decision to force a redesign that became so expensive just so you could beautify a bridge's purpose is only to get the cars from point A to point B.
No, and how many times have you seen it promote Oakland? The whole idea was because they wanted a beautiful side on, a better side looking on in Oakland. And in the years since they built it, which is 15 years or 20 years now, I have never once seen it related to Oakland in any way. It's not like the Oakland side of the bridge. It's not like used in any type
No,
of.
it's just the Bay
I've
Bridge.
never
That's
seen,
all.
but the cost overruns made it go up like another $100 million just because this one mayor said, "Well, we want it to be more aesthetic." Not that they wanted it to be safer, more efficient.
Which, by the way, wasn't safer initially when it opened. Remember, the bolts were being sheared off. All those other things, faulty. Yeah. They had to replace every single bolt on that damn bridge.
But the point is that how much did that politician, by being politicians, make it go up $100 million or whatever the dollar amount was, because they wanted aesthetic? And I'm like, what? And yeah, it made it more aesthetic, but to cost that much more. I mean, they literally had to stall it. So, and yeah, there's.
Yeah, I mean, it's all politician driven. It is what it is. I mean,
the cost overruns.
Not that I'm saying we should just let it happen. I have a different belief, obviously, that things should change dramatically. But the point is, it's like, it's probably how all bridges were built, even the Golden Gate and others, political,
But they were building like
hand greasing, all that good stuff. Make sure you get your shit done and the money you need and so forth.
For then. And people will, I know we're coming on time, but the one argument that you hear is CEO salaries are the reason. I'm like, no, they're not. I'm sorry, when you do the math, like when they talk about a CEO salary and like they're doing 30,000 layoffs, the CEO salary of this company is $20 million a year. When you do the math, even if you got rid of the salary of the CEO, when you just do simple basic math, a lot of times, a lot of these things equate to, it would be $3,000 a year for each of those employees laid off. Even if you cut it in half, it would go up to like $10,000 a year. So most of the time, it's actually not CEO. There's, like you said, there's a lot more to it, and it's not that. Just going back to the idea, like we said about fitness, it's not one cause. I think the one thing that you've seen such a uprising today versus other is unnecessary, like you said, like the greasing of the hands. Think how many things have to go, like buying a car today. If we got rid of dealerships, we talked about this before. If we got rid of dealerships,
previous episode, everybody.
Yeah, it was a previous episode. But I mean, if you got rid of dealerships, how many times are things crossing other people's hands? How many times is it jumping before it gets to the consumer now?
Yeah,
and I think that's
everybody wants a piece of the pie.
But again, and they don't provide any actual value. So
no. I agree, but everybody wants a piece of the pie. And, there are a lot of historical structures in place that make it hard to change
that don't need to be there anymore.
That didn't need to be there in the beginning. But again, like everything, things change. So anyway, let's end it there. I'm not sure get any more disappointing on that one. But hey, I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving.
Next time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you say if you have any comments, feel free to put them in, and we're on all podcasting platforms available there. We also have our YouTube channel where we upload our video. We always love to hear from people, so feel free to leave comments, positive or not. Doesn't really matter. We just want interaction is always fun. We hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So we'll be back next week. Would you have a good one? I want to talk to you then.
See ya.